Hi, Gary here again from SoConnect. I'm just going to briefly talk to you now about what we call the 3 stages of data connectivity available to any business in terms of how it evolves from the moment of being launched until growing to a significantly sized organisation, and how that can impact on the data connection that you have and what you may need to consider in terms of data connectivity options as you grow from one stage to the other. So the first stage is effectively being a small business, being a business that's just been launched, or a business of just a handful of employees. What is the most suitable type of data connection for that business? That question is always difficult to answer because it depends on the nature of the data connectivity requirements for your business. However, typically you're going to be struggling for budget as a small startup, and funds will typically be restricted, meaning that the obvious choice would be a standard DSL broadband connection. Benefits of broadband: available anywhere, can be installed in less than 10 working days, simply needs a phone line to run, and is obviously very cheap. We offer unlimited broadband services typically for under £40 a month. So in terms of actually getting a connection in place to start your business off, that's the obvious first port of call. Going forward, whatever else you may choose to add to that, you may wish to retain a broadband connection for reasons of failover, but broadband would obviously be the first rung on the ladder. The second stage typically would be the point where your business starts to grow beyond a few employees and you start to have multiples of 10 in terms of employees, meaning that your bandwidth requirements start to grow, and you as a business start to rely on more services on the internet. So potentially you start to use cloud services for email, file storage, unified communications and such like. And like anything in life, the less you think you're going to use these things, the more you will use them. So you will find as the business grows that your bandwidth requirements will increase significantly. There are options to consider in terms of stage 2, when you become effectively an SME, whereby you can look at potentially bonded broadband or fibre broadband. But fibre broadband obviously is very much subject to availability. The joy of a bonded broadband is it can deliver very good download where you are in a good area for broadband. The flip side to that coin is that isn't the case if you're in a bad area for broadband. So we're often approached by people who desperately need to improve their bandwidth but can't really receive any good broadband service and don't have access to fibre broadband. In that scenario, it's always worth looking at something like satellite broadband, which can offer a good enhancement in bandwidth, albeit that technology also has its own pitfalls that we would discuss at the time. Stage 3 would be the point where a business has grown to multiple sites, multiple employees, and needs bulletproof connectivity that's reliable and always on without being subject to usage allowances like broadband. And that takes us into the world of Ethernet. So with Ethernet services, the 2 core Ethernet grade services in the UK are EFM and Ethernet over fibre, conventional fibre lease line, which come with service levels and guaranteed uptime. The downside to those services, if there is a downside, is cost. So as you go up the ladder and you invest in these improved forms of connectivity, your budget does increase in terms of your expenditure on those technologies. However, what you get in return by way of uptime assurance and service levels justifies the cost, and we at SoConnect can advise you on those products as and where required.